I hope everybody's doing great. So here's what we're going to talk about today. Strictly conventional primary residence seller paid closing costs. As the market kind of trends to a more net neutral market, even a buyer friendly market, we're seeing more and more seller paid closing costs on contract and during due diligence. So what we're going to talk about today, again, because FHA, VA, primary residence, second home, investment, they all have different seller paid closing costs. Today, strictly primary residence conventional mortgage closing costs. So here's how it works. Pretty simple on this, guys. If the customer's putting 3% or 5% down, you're allowed to ask for 3% of the sales price in closing costs. So a $500,000 home, client's putting 3% down, 5% down, you're allowed to ask for up to 3%, which is $15,000. If they're putting 5% or more down, 5% more than 5% down, then you're allowed to ask for 6%, which is a lot. If we go to a $500,000 house, you're technically, if they're putting 10% down, 20% down, 15, you're allowed to ask for $30,000 in closing costs. That's a lot. Now, all that to say, talk to us. Communication is always key, guys. We will walk you through, hey, this is how much we're seeing on the sales price, because every sales price is different. The client's credit scores can affect closing costs. So talk to us first, and we'll help guide you on how to structure the deal so everybody wins. That being said, remember, if you go negotiate closing costs and there's too much, there's not enough, if you've got a lender that's really not in the game, that don't know their stuff, and they don't use it all. I've heard horror stories about this. You ask for $15,000 in closing costs, you get to the table, there's only 12. The seller keeps the balance. So if there's $3,000 left over and the lender doesn't know what they're doing, the seller gets that money back at closing. So it goes right back to the seller. We will never, ever, ever leave seller paid closing costs on the table. We will use every dollar for your client. That is our job. There's a bunch of tricks in our book, that we can do. So if you negotiate something without talking to us, for example, and there's just too much closing costs, I've got 2 or 3 tricks in my book that I've learned over the last 23 years where we'll make sure we squeeze every penny out of that seller paid closing costs. All right. So I stay in my lane, but if you call me as an agent, or if the buyer asks, hey, we're writing up the repair amendment, would you do repairs or closing costs? I'm always going to say do closing costs. Here's why. The seller's packed up, they're emotionally out of the house, they're moving on to the next thing. Why ask them to do repairs? Unless it's a really big repair, like a roof or something crazy like that, that's gonna be $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, AC, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. If it's, patch this, do that, some electrical here, some plumbing here, I would always rather get closing costs and me as a homeowner do the repairs myself after closing, because I'm gonna hire vendors I like and trust and know the job's gonna get done right. You've got a seller that's emotionally checked out. They're going to do the cheapest job. They're going to do it, half baked, just to get it done and move on to the next thing. Guys, as always, if you have questions, give us a call, shoot us an email. Have a great day.